That's at the bottom of the hour. But first, who is behind the biggest money scam ever? That guy on the left, Bernie Madoff, and the other con men of Wall Street, or the folks on the right, President Obama and his buddies inside the Beltway. So you think Bernie's $65 billion Ponzi scheme is the biggest scam ever? Think again. Steve Forbes says President Obama and his friends in Congress are ripping you off more than Madoff ever could. Steve?
Well, Bernie Madoff is a criminal. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. Family is going to go with him. That's all to the good. But in terms of what the current administration is doing, in terms of the cost they're applying to the economy, hitting businesses, small businesses with new taxes, taxing capital, wasting tens and hundreds of billions of dollars, that's going to do more economic harm than Bernie Madoff could ever dream of doing.
Quentin, who's worse for the market, Bernie Madoff or the folks in D.C.?
Wait a minute, didn't we just have somebody on the air saying how terrible cynicism is? Comparing the American government to an ongoing criminal enterprise is just silly and wrong and more cynicism than anything I can imagine. Now look, yes, the government is spending a lot of money. A lot of money has gone south. The roots of this whole conflict, this depression we are in now, is a banking crisis. You forget what happened in September and October when the biggest interest rate in the world tripled, when companies couldn't fund themselves overnight. You have to throw a lot of money at that problem. Companies are still scared and not spending. They need a long work through. The banks need a long work through. People need jobs in the meantime. That is meaningful spending.
Mike Ozanian, just one statistic. I'm not going to get buried in weeds, but just one stat. Medicare alone wastes in fraud or waste $50 billion a year. So one government program wastes as much as Bernie Madoff.
Well, look, as my editor Bill Baldwin pointed out, Madoff's scam is about $20 billion. Barack Obama's Ponzi scheme is $2 trillion. And if you look at how they work the schemes, they're very similar. Both falsified their returns. Obama has overinflated what the GDP is going to be, the economy, how much it's going to grow. Even the Congressional Budget Office has said Obama's numbers are way inflated. And to pay for that, he's got to bring in a lot of other scamsters, Obama does, which in this case really are taxpayers.
Okay, Evelyn, before we go to you, I just want to say that the winner of this debate, I'm going to be the sole judge, by the way, gets one of these. This is called a sleazeball. I don't know if you get a close-up of it, but that is Bernie Madoff's face on there. That is a sleazeball, so anybody who wants can get a chance to hit this golf ball and smash Bernie Madoff in the head. But who's worse, Madoff or Washington?
You cannot equate outright stealing and government spending. Even though there's pork in the stimulus bill, fine, but the bulk of government spending has gone towards Medicaid taxes and tax breaks, in other words, and that I think is a good thing because it needs to shore up the financial system.
But I mentioned Medicare has $50 billion in waste and fraud every year.
What would the alternative have been if we just allowed ourselves to turn our backs and allow the financial system to go the way of Lehman Brothers? Then we would have seen a depression on our hands, a true depression, where unemployment could have climbed up to 20%, and then the taxpayers would truly pay.
EMAC, go ahead.
You know, Madoff is a sociopath, a greedy sociopath, but now we're bailing out reckless greed on Wall Street as well. You know, when you think about it, look, the deficit really started to veer out of control under Bush, under what we thought was a conservative, and he kept the Iraq war off budget. That is outrageous. And also the GAO tried to reconcile the government's books. They found $50 billion missing, and they cannot sign off on the government's own books. Both Republicans and Democrats have been at really bad fault here. Term limits once and for all, but now we're blowing money out the back door like never before, $9.7 trillion to bail out bad bets on Wall Street and by the banks. That's outrageous.
Mr. Weinberg, who's worse, Washington or Madoff?
Madoff. You can't even compare them. They're not in the same league. Yes, there are problems with what President Obama's spending. Personally, I don't like it. It's too much. We can always doubt the things he's spending the money on, but this is the government that we elected. If you don't like it, then we're going to have another election and you can go vote for somebody else. Madoff, out and out, broke the law. He stole from people. He misrepresented himself, and it's a completely different thing.
You can vote for other people, Steve, but as Elizabeth is saying, some of these people feel they're entitled to these jobs. They've been in power for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, good argument for term limits.
Exactly.
And then this is not a debate about legality and illegality. What Madoff did was illegal. What they do in Washington, they have make it legal. But the debate here is destructiveness. Who is more destructive to the economy today? Washington or Bernie Madoff? There is no comparison. When you slap on new taxes, you don't do right on the banking system. It's not what the banking system needs help. It's what's most effective. Get rid of mark-to-market, you'll do a lot of good than the trillions they're throwing out now.
It's not the legality issue. It's who does more damage to the market. In that context, who's worse?
You know, the great thing Obama is doing is talking about personal responsibility. And when things go up, we tend to... Go ahead and laugh. Let me finish. When things go up, we always talk about these titans of capitalism and how great it is. And when things go down, it's the government. Well, David, all that waste and fraud in Medicare, I got news for you. That's individuals ripping off the system. And Wall Street, that wasn't the government. That was individuals in the private sector.
I got to ask quickly, Mike, why the laugh on the comment about personal responsibility?
Obama's Ponzi scheme's doing the same thing that Madoff's did. He's taking money from people not even in the system, taxpayers not even in the system, and he's going to scourge them for money down the road.
And by the way, when are they going to do clawbacks on the political donations that were given to Robert Allen Stanford and Bernie Madoff? Charles Schumer was visiting Bernie Madoff a lot.
For politicians, I love it. And remember to catch more of my Bernie Madoff Survivors special on the Fox Business Network Saturday and Sunday nights at 9 Eastern.